She endured ridicule. Directly at the center of her former best friend's wedding. A plain linen dress, worn ballet flats, her hair partially tied. It was sufficient to make her the evening's object of amusement amid a gathering of elaborate designer gowns and professional makeup artistry. A glass of red wine was spilled onto her dress. A piercing laugh echoed. "Oops, sorry, you're mistaken. This isn't a charitable fundraiser." Eva Quinn remained motionless, holding her invitation, her expression composed. They were unaware of her identity. They perceived only a reserved woman and presumed she was holding onto outdated ways. Even the bride had only extended an invitation to showcase the accomplishments she believed she had acquired. However, their assessment was incorrect. The woman they had just embarrassed was the wife of the man who had recently acquired the very company the bride was boasting about. The Belvoir estate shimmered beneath a late September sky, its expansive lawns and marble terraces reimagined as a setting for Clara Wynn's wedding. Elegant chandeliers descended from silk-draped pergolas, scattering glittering light across tables adorned with gold-rimmed crystal glassware. Orchids overflowed from every available space, their fragrance blending with the cool evening air. Attendees, global influencers, CEOs, and minor royalty, circulated like stars in designer gowns and custom-made tuxedos, their laughter echoing as a harmonious expression of affluence. The event was live-streamed to millions, presented as a celebration of empowered womanhood, with Clara, the self-proclaimed Queen of Ellis, as the focal point. Drones buzzed above, recording all perspectives for a global audience. Eva Quinn appeared on the terrace, her square-neck linen dress flowing gently in the breeze, the light sage fabric draped simply, ending just above her ankles. The sound of her worn ballet flats echoed softly on the stone, and her auburn hair was arranged in a casual knot, with several strands loose around her face. She had no makeup, her skin radiating a healthy glow, and the only jewelry she wore was a simple silver ring on her left hand. She held a cream-colored envelope in her fingers, Clara's invitation, written in elegant but smug script, encouraging her to observe a new chapter. At 36, Eva possessed a striking appearance, her hazel eyes keen with a calm wisdom, her cheekbones catching the light. Her beauty possessed a quiet quality, like a confidence shared with only a few. She stopped near the group's perimeter, her eyes taking in the estate. She'd established Ellis from nothing, a dorm room vision of pure aesthetics, arising from late nights experimenting with compounds, while Clara playfully teased her for her dedicated passion. Eva provided the intellect and the drive, crafting products that transformed an entire sector. However, following her daughter's birth, when postpartum issues confined her to bed, Clara and their close friends acted. Her name had been removed, her work appropriated, and she had been forced out through a boardroom coup, leaving her with only a broken heart and a newborn child. Eva had withdrawn, opting for a peaceful existence, while Clara advanced on the foundation of her stolen achievements. A server in a shimmering gown moved closer, her smile restrained as she assessed Eva's attire. Catering personnel should use the side entrance, she indicated, gesturing toward a gravel path bordered by service vans. Eva's lips lifted slightly, her voice gentle but distinct. "I am a guest, Eva Quinn." The invitation was presented, its wax seal intact. The hostess paused, examining it with a small gadget, then showed a look of concern. "This appears authentic, but," she began, "please wait here." She moved away, speaking quietly into her headset, leaving Eva to feel the attention of those around her. Other attendees began to observe her, their hushed tones disrupting the string quartet's music. A woman dressed in a sapphire gown, with emerald earrings, bent towards her escort. "Is that linen?" she inquired, her voice carrying across the room. Did she arrive from a craft fair? Her friend, Lila Hart, a tech heiress, laughed, her diamond bracelet flashing. It seemed likely she was here for the open bar. A man in a velvet tuxedo, his cufflinks glinting, joined in the laughter. No makeup, a rather daring choice for someone seeking financial gain. Their amusement spread, attracting more attention. Eva remained still, her hands clasped around the invitation, her expression calm. She sensed their stares, as pointed as needles, but they didn't affect her. She had overcome more challenging situations. The memory of hospital rooms, betrayal, and nights spent questioning her ability to rebuild felt distant, just background noise. She advanced towards the main pavilion when Clara Wynne materialized, radiant in a crystal-encrusted gown that glimmered like frost. Her blonde hair was styled in an updo, diamonds catching the light at her throat. She noticed Eva and paused, then offered a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Eva?" Clara's voice was syrupy, audible to the nearby tables. "Oh, you came. Don't worry. You are still welcome to attend this wedding, even if you are no longer the founder of Alyssa." The words had a sharp impact, and the crowd responded with laughter, quickly raising their phones to record the moment. Clara inclined her head, her smile becoming more pronounced. "I mean, it has been years, hasn't it? You've moved on." She indicated toward Eva's dress, her tone laced with what seemed like pity. Eva's gaze met Clara's, remaining calm and resolute, but she did not speak. Eva's silence appeared to disconcert Clara, who laughed again, louder this time. "Please, let's all be considerate," she said, gesturing with her hand. "Eva is someone I've known for a long time. Let her appreciate the scenery." She moved away, her dress trailing on the floor as attendees murmured, their voices a quiet disapproval. An old acquaintance? Lila Hartskoft. More accurately, a relic of the past. The master of ceremonies, a polished man called Trevor Kane with a sharp smile, stepped onto the platform, his microphone shining. "Please take your seats," he announced, his gaze sweeping across the assembly. He noticed Eva and hesitated, his smile growing. He indicated a designated area for certain attendees, gesturing toward a table close to the catering staff, situated behind a service station filled with trays. "Right there, miss. That's ideal for you." Laughter rippled through the room, a harsh sound that bounced off the marble. A waiter, seemingly believing Eva was an employee, presented her with a tray of champagne flutes. "Hurry up. They're waiting," he said, then appeared confused when she politely refused, her voice steady. "I'm not serving tonight." Eva was seated at her corner table when a catering manager in a crisp suit approached, his face flushed with irritation. "You are in the incorrect location," he stated, his voice loud enough for nearby guests to turn. "Staff do not sit with guests. Please move." He grasped her arm, pulling her up as her chair scraped the marble, drawing stares. "Don't feign ignorance," he hissed, misinterpreting her silence as resistance. Guests applauded, one person shouting, "Send her to wash dishes." A woman tossed a napkin at her, laughing, "Start cleaning. Honey." A drone overhead focused on her misstep, sharing it with millions. Eva regained her balance, her invitation shifting a little, but her expression showed no fear, only a calm determination that contrasted with their excitement. Eva proceeded to the table, her movements deliberate, and took a seat, maintaining a straight posture, the invitation still in her grasp. The other attendees at the table, mostly secondary guests and a few hesitant relatives, didn't meet her eyes, their unease obvious. Close by, a cluster of influencers in bright dresses recorded themselves, their voices carrying. "She's giving thrift store vibes," one commented, focusing the camera on Eva's flats. "Does she realize this is being streamed to millions?" Another remarked, her lips gleaming. "Bet she's here to request a position with Clara." Their audience responded enthusiastically, with comments appearing rapidly. "Loser alert. Why is she even here?" As Eva stood close to the pavilion, a group of attendees approached, their eyes reflecting hostility. A woman in a pearl-encrusted gown, her lipstick sharp as her tongue, moved forward. "Why is she present here?" She expressed disdain, her voice audible to everyone. "Clara is too compassionate, allowing those in need to enter." Her escort, a man with a gold watch, threw a shrimp from his plate at Eva's feet, smiling. "Retrieve, dear." The assembly erupted, phones recording as others participated, scattering morsels, murmuring, "She is insignificant now." A young influencer declared, "Let's make her infamous for being pitiable," inciting further laughter. Eva's hands were steady as she held her invitation, her gaze fixed forward, yet the atmosphere grew heavy with their malice, a display fueled by her silence. Clara's inner circle, the women who'd assisted her in acquiring a license, gathered near the bridal platform, their laughter as cutting as shards of glass. Margot Rees, a former chemist who had taken Eva's formulas, inclined her head towards Sloane Carter, the marketing expert who had revised Eva's narrative. "Look at her," Margot said, her ruby necklace catching the light, seated with the staff, utterly pathetic. Sloane smiled, enjoying her martini. Clara's talent was intriguing her. It seemed to suggest she wouldn't disapprove. They touched glasses, their attention on Eva, who remained impassive, her eyes focused on the stage where Clara was about to speak. The audience's antagonism became more pronounced, encouraged by champagne and Clara's challenge. A gentleman in a bow tie, his face red, bent toward Eva's table, his voice unsteady. "Hey, servant, get me a drink," his companions shouted, one throwing an olive from his martini, observing it travel across her lap. A muffled exclamation drew laughter. A woman wearing a feathered headpiece dismissed Eva with a disdainful gesture, her voice laced with mockery. "You're disrupting the decor, dear. Perhaps you're better suited for the kitchen." Cameras quickly recorded the olive stain, the discarded napkin, and the mark on her dress resulting from the incident. Eva's grip tightened on her invitation, yet her expression remained calm, displaying a quiet resolve that made their comments appear frantic. Trevor Kane returned to the microphone, his smile now more pronounced. "Before our bride speaks, let's acknowledge our unexpected guests." He gestured toward Eva, the spotlight shifting to her table, momentarily obscuring her. "Who invited the vintage shop? Huh?" The crowd responded with enthusiastic applause. Trevor Kane approached the microphone, his eyes twinkling as he focused on Eva again. "Folks, we have a remarkable story here," he announced, the spotlight highlighting her. "Miss Thrift Shop believes she's a guest, but let's be honest, she's here for the refreshments." The audience roared, their phones raised, recording as he spoke on, suggesting, "She's probably prepared a sad tale. Let's hear it, Eva, and have a cry with us." A spectator tossed a bread roll, striking her shoulder, while another yelled, "Give her a gift bag and remove her." The live broadcast intensified, the comment section filled with harsh remarks. "Complete failure. Clara dominates." Eva wiped away the crumbs, her face calm, her quietness a barrier against their anger. A drone approached, its camera focused on her, displaying her soiled dress to the public. Online comments exploded, a wave of dismay. Calls for her removal echoed. Eva remained composed, the bright stage lights illuminating her face, but her gaze didn't falter, fixed on Clara, who smiled from the stage, clearly enjoying the attention. Clara approached the microphone, her voice rich and controlled. "Thank you all for celebrating with me," she began, her gown shimmering under the lights. "This wedding isn't just about love, it's about my journey. The list was my vision, my hard work, my victory. I created it from the ground up, and tonight, I am here as evidence that a woman can achieve everything she desires." The audience responded with enthusiastic applause, the sound reverberating as Clara's gaze briefly met Eva's, a spark of triumph visible in her eyes. "Some individuals begin with great momentum but eventually diminish," she continued, her words deliberately sharp. Clara interrupted her address, her eyes fixed on Eva with a triumphant expression. "Oh, let's remember where we came from," she said, her voice laced with insincere warmth. "Eva, you instructed me significantly about yielding." The crowd's applause was sharp and intense as Clara indicated Eva's table, the spotlight shifting to emphasize her stained dress. "Look at her, still so unassuming," Clara remarked, eliciting surprised reactions and laughter. A guest called out, "Back to the basement, Eva." As others recorded with their phones, Clara moved closer to the microphone and added, "Some people simply aren't suited for the spotlight." Eva remained composed, her hazel eyes unwavering, a quiet strength setting her apart from their animosity. She stated, "Others, like me, ascend and continue ascending." The applause grew, but Eva's gaze remained steady, her silence more impactful than Clara's words. Her voice continued, even as Clara spoke. A woman wearing a gold dress, her influencer status evident in her carefully posed posture, whispered to her companion, gesturing towards Eva. "She's probably homeless now," she murmured, nodding. Clara added that she had failed after losing Elise. Her companion, a hedge fund employee named Derek, laughed, the sound audible to Eva's table. Bet she's here to get a free meal, he said. He inadvertently nudged his fork in her direction, causing it to fall with a clatter at her feet. Pick it up, darling, he said, which elicited laughter. The drone recorded everything, and online platforms quickly amplified Eva's perceived embarrassment, with memes already circulating. Alyssa's forgotten founder. Eva dismissed the fork with her foot, her actions purposeful, her composure serving as a defense against the public's reaction. Following this, a deep vibration filled the air, resembling thunder across the estate. Attention shifted. Drinks halted in midair as a helicopter descended, its blades cutting through the evening light. It touched down on a lawn nearby, scattering petals and dust, its polished, black exterior a striking contrast to the wedding's soft colors. The assembled guests murmured, cameras adjusting to record it, live stream viewership surging to millions. A man emerged, his tuxedo immaculate, his demeanor commanding the attention of everyone present. Asher Dorian, the famously private billionaire and renowned master of global mergers, a name spoken with a mix of apprehension and admiration. His dark hair was swept back, his gray eyes scanning the crowd with a predator's focus. He moved past the guests without a word, their gasps trailing him like shadows. Asher's steps were deliberate, crossing the terrace in long strides, ignoring the bridal dais, Clara's speech, the entire spectacle. His eyes found Eva and the world seemed to pause. She stood, her stained dress catching the chandelier light, and she took his hand, her touch steady, familiar. A hush fell over the audience, their amusement abruptly silenced. Clara's microphone malfunctioned, her speech fading, and her complexion lost color beneath her veil. Trevor Kane's smile disappeared, his hands awkwardly adjusting the microphone stand. The drone focused, showing Asher's hand clasped with Eva's, her silver ring catching the light like a promise. Asher then turned to Trevor, his voice calm but powerful, breaking the stillness. Please accept my apologies for this interruption. I have a few important announcements regarding the company the bride has been so enthusiastically promoting. He paused, allowing the anticipation to linger, his gaze sweeping the assembled group. A complete roster had been obtained this morning. All shares, every patent, every formula, and the new legal representative. He looked at Eva, his eyes softening briefly. My wife. Gasps spread through the estate, phones clattered, and live streams erupted with commentary. What? Eva's back? Eva moved forward, her footsteps echoing on the marble, and ascended the stage. Her stained dress, a symbol of their cruelty. Clara recoiled, her gown snagging on the microphone stand, her diamonds appearing lackluster beside Eva's serene glow. Eva grasped the microphone, her voice steady and controlled, reminiscent of a deep flowing river. Thank you, Clara, for supporting my brand for the last few years. I didn't come here to disrupt your wedding. I came to reclaim what had been wrongfully taken. The audience fell silent, their previous disapproval now overshadowed by astonishment. Julian Holt, Clara's fiancé and heir to a shipping dynasty, rose from the head table, his expression strained with anger. He moved toward Clara, speaking in a quiet but clear voice that reached the nearby guests. You lied, he stated, his words precise about everything. He removed the engagement ring from her finger, the emerald flashing as he dropped it to the floor. We are finished. Clara's reality shattered as Eva's words lingered, her diamond veil shifting as she stumbled away. Guests averted their gazes, their hushed voices cutting through the air. Did she take everything? Eva truly is remarkable. Her phone vibrated with urgent messages, Alyssa's removal from the board and the departure of sponsors. The live stream, previously her platform, exposed her, displaying a frozen image with mascara running. Someone who had applauded Eva's speech now questioned her integrity, whispering, fraud. Clara attempted to offer a statement, but her microphone malfunctioned, the resulting quiet intensely noticeable. The realm she had constructed, founded upon Eva's talent, crumbled within moments, her reputation becoming a cautionary tale, her former prestige now reduced to dust before Eva. He walked off the stage, past the stunned crowd, and disappeared into the estate, leaving Clara alone under the spotlight. Clara's composure faltered, her hands trembling as she gripped the microphone. "This isn't true," she exclaimed, her voice high-pitched, but the crowd didn't react. Phones vibrated, headlines developing. Alyssa founder reclaims throne at wedding scandal. The live stream increased to 10 million viewers with comments pouring in. Clara's a fraud. Eva's iconic. Margot and Sloane, Clara's collaborators, attempted to leave, but drones tracked them, displaying their faces on screens globally. Their careers, established upon Eva's misappropriated work, disintegrated as it happened, with sponsors withdrawing and their names becoming prominent for negative attention. Eva exited the stage, Asher beside her, their hands still connected. She did not look at Clara, nor did she revel in the disorder. Her lack of comment conveyed a message, her reality more impactful than any insult. The audience cleared a path. The murmurs had shifted to expressions of wonder, sorrow, and embarrassment. Trevor Kane, his usual confident hosting demeanor absent, offered a quiet apology, but Eva remained silent. She had sought justice, and she achieved it without needing to speak. Before the evening concluded, Julian's family, the Holts, released a formal declaration, severing all connections with Clara and her business endeavors. Her influence, her contracts, her public image, and her carefully constructed narrative crumbled swiftly. Online platforms reacted harshly, featuring memes of her surprised expression with the caption, "Thief Bride." The wedding guests who had previously mocked Eva now confronted their own consequences. Lila Hart's startup experienced a loss of funding, Derek's hedge fund encountered audits, their identities linked to Clara's fraud. The public followed intently as Eva's resolute actions altered the narrative. By morning, the wedding's guest list was a casualty of ruined reputations. Lila Hart's startup ceased operations, investors pointing to damaging public perception following her viral comments. Derek's hedge fund faced lawsuits, his clients bailing as Derek downtrended. Margot and Sloane, Clara's allies, lost their board seats, their names removed from Alyssa's records. The influencer in gold, her video ridiculing Eva now notorious, witnessed her transactions disappear, followers shifting with fake glam. Attendees who'd chuckled retreated, their apologies disregarded, and their brands exiled by Asher's network. Eva's veracity, understated yet unwavering, consumed their realities, her poise the instrument delivering the most profound damage. Asher and Eva halted at the terrace's edge, the helicopter awaiting them beyond the lawn. He regarded her, speaking softly. "You weren't obligated to do this." She smiled, her hazel eyes reflecting the starlight. "I chose to. It was for me." She briefly looked back at the estate, observing Clara's silhouette, now solitary under the chandeliers, and then turned away, her movements graceful, her ring sparkling. They proceeded toward the helicopter, the night belonging to them, the world irrevocably altered. If this story resonated with you, please leave a comment, like the video, and subscribe for more impactful stories like this one. They requested she tackle a complex math problem, not for the solution itself, but to observe her discomfort, hesitation, and silence. Within a seminar room populated by tailored suits and PhD name tags, she arrived wearing worn canvas shoes and a creased shirt. "Did you take a wrong turn, ma'am?" Someone chuckled, "This isn't the PDA meeting." However, as her hand grasped the marker and countless eyes anticipated her failure, the whiteboard began to reveal something entirely different. The Ascension Forum at St. Lennox University stood as a cathedral of intellect, its ancient brick walls draped in ivy, its seminar halls aglow with chandeliers worth more than Manhattan penthouses. This exclusive conference, reserved for Ivy League PhDs and million-dollar AI research sponsors, featured tailored wool suits, silk ties, and name tags boasting titles like Chair of Quantum Computing. Polished oak tables held crystal water pitchers, and the air carried notes of oud and ambition. A limited number, just 300 attendees, received invitations, and their sapphire badges were verified by staff wearing velvet vests. Outside the main hall, a marble atrium provided access to a private lecture theater, with its doors designated solely for keynote speakers. Lillian Moore Bellamy entered through a less conspicuous entrance. Her jeans were worn, Her simple t-shirt was tucked into a cardigan featuring worn cuffs, and her chestnut hair was pulled back with a rubber band. At 31, raised in a modest town in Vermont, she had taught herself advanced mathematics while caring for her ailing mother, and had turned down PhD offers from Harvard, MIT, and Princeton. She held a thick notebook filled with handwritten formulas. It was her only companion besides her husband, Dr. Henry Bellamy, the forum's keynote speaker. The hall's stairs felt oppressive, their whispers a gathering storm. Lillian seemed out of place within the forum, her notebook a stark contrast to the elite's carefully constructed environment. A Yale professor, wearing a $4,000 Zegna suit and displaying a sapphire badge, halted his discussion. He questioned aloud, loud enough for others to hear, if she was his bag holder. A Stanford researcher, dressed in a $3,000 Armani blazer, laughed softly, nodding to his colleague, suggesting she might be his new girlfriend, someone who hadn't attended college. A wave of laughter echoed through the seminar room, with attendees attempting to hide smiles behind their hands. Lillian remained composed, her hazel eyes focused, a notebook held close. She had come to offer encouragement to Henry, whose work she had subtly influenced. The audience's frustration grew, feeling the sharp sting of these academic authorities' dismissive behavior and their contempt for Lillian's calm demeanor. The ridicule intensified, a harsh and pointed performance led by the forum's prominent members. Becca Sloan, a third-year PhD candidate from St. Lennox, moved forward, her tailored Chanel skirt swaying, her blonde ponytail as crisp as her expression. At 26, having grown up in Boston's elite circles, she was known for her dismissive attitude towards competitors. She looked at Lillian's worn cardigan and showed disapproval. "Ma'am, this area is designated for main speakers only. Free coffee is available downstairs," she stated, her voice precise. The attendees reacted with laughter, the sound reverberating through the oak walls. Becca swung her ponytail, releasing a wave of jasmine-scented perfume, a fragrance Lillian was aware Henry found unpleasant. Lillian's grip on her notebook intensified, her expression composed, yet the audience's anger escalated, their pulses racing at this direct challenge, Becca's confidence appearing like a flame in the cold air. The disapproval intensified, a planned and focused criticism of Lillian's participation. A conference staff member, Margaret Voss, moved forward, her tailored vest neat, her face showing years of upholding established rules. At 50, raised in upstate New York, she took pride in maintaining order. She indicated the exit, her voice steady but not unkind. "Let's go, miss. You're disrupting the session." The crowd responded with cheers, their silk ties gleaming as they gestured toward the atrium. A Princeton alum, dressed in a $5,000 Brioni suit, called out, "Did you get lost? This isn't the community college." Laughter erupted, academics subtly bumping shoulders. A postdoc whispered, "She doesn't even look like a grad student." Someone added, "That notebook's probably just doodles and she dares sit here?" The insults felt like a guillotine, each word a blow against Lillian's silence. The audience's anger grew, their hearts aching for Lillian, and their frustration directed at this group's harsh treatment. The academics' disapproval became sharp as Lillian stood in the seminar room, their derision a deliberate attack intended to diminish her resolve. Near the oak tables, a group of Ivy League professors, dressed in $7,000 Seville Row suits, assembled, their voices forming a harsh blend. "She's a detriment to this forum's reputation," one remarked, gesturing with a gold fountain pen towards Lillian's worn cardigan. "Return to the library, dear," another suggested, displaying a sapphire badge and adding, "Her notebook appears as if purchased at a secondary school sale." Amusement rippled through the gathering, with staff members subtly acknowledging each other, their cufflinks sparkling. A quantum computing expert exclaimed, "She's an insult to every paper presented here." The remarks felt like a guillotine, each word a blade against Lillian's poised silence. Henry's lecture theater loomed beyond the hall, but the seminar room's disdain was a crushing weight. The audience's frustration grew, their hearts pounding, angered by this orchestrated cruelty, their ire ignited, ready to challenge the elite's arrogance. Becca Sloan delivered another sharp comment, deliberately intended to unsettle Lillian in front of the select group. "So, What understanding do you expect to gain at a forum like this? She asked, her Chanel skirt reflecting the light as she stood at Lillian's table. Or should we administer a freshman entrance exam to familiarize you with the subject? She didn't pause for a response, instead heading to the whiteboard where she began writing a complex combinatorics problem, one that had previously challenged her own research group. If I solve this before the coffee break ends, I'll publicly apologize and get your coffee for a week, she stated, her voice loud enough to silence nearby murmurs. If not, kindly step aside and make room for real academics. The attendees cheered, their scorn a suffocating tide, their whispers buzzing. She's a fraud. Lillian's hazel eyes burned with quiet fire, but her smile held a shield against the challenge. The audience's anger surged, their hearts aching for Lillian, outraged by this public humiliation displayed before them. The elite's contempt became intensely personal, their voices a sharp and bitter chorus. A Harvard professor, dressed in a $6,000 khitan suit, rested against the seminar table, his voice harsh and dismissive. She's insignificant, likely here to collect Bellamy's notes, he remarked, indicating Lillian's notebook. Notice that cardigan. Did she make it herself? His colleagues chuckled, their sapphire badges glinting. An MIT postdoc exclaimed, she's an embarrassment to whoever let her in. The crowd's laughter felt overwhelming. Their arrogance felt like a public condemnation. Lillian tightened her rubber band, her hazel eyes steady, but the seminar room's disapproval felt like a heavy burden. The audience's frustration intensified, their hearts racing at this perceived institutional failing, their anger threatening to disrupt the forum's decorum. Becca Sloan's disapproval intensified, her words a deliberate attempt to embarrass Lillian before the seminar room's distinguished attendees. She's not just out of place. She's a disgrace, she stated, her Chanel skirt catching the light as she indicated Lillian's canvas shoes. Henry must be horrified to see this. Nobody in his session. Her group responded with laughter, their silk scarves waving, their eyes briefly looking at Lillian's notebook. She's a charity case, not a scholar, Becca remarked, her voice strong enough to stop nearby whispers. The attendees responded with cheers, their scorn a heavy atmosphere, their comments a constant hum. She's a fake. Lillian's hazel eyes held a quiet intensity, but her smile remained, a defense against the disloyalty. The lecture theater shone in the distance, yet the seminar room's disapproval felt overwhelming. The audience's anger surged, their feelings sympathetic toward Lillian. The room was filled with anger as this PhD candidate's actions were revealed. The staff's involvement only intensified the disappointment, appearing as a further breach of trust. A session coordinator, Clara Holt, wearing a tailored blazer, addressed the situation, her tone laced with disdain. Miss, general seating is located in the atrium, she stated, gesturing towards a side door, her slight smile echoed by nearby academics. We do not allow guests of this nature in the main hall, she continued, prompting laughter from the assembled group. At 28, having grown up in Connecticut, Clara valued her role in controlling access. The crowd's endorsement felt like an overwhelming force, their condescension a very public shaming. Lillian held her notebook, her hazel eyes focused, but the seminar room's disapproval felt oppressive. The audience's anger rose, their hearts racing at this form of institutional rejection, their resentment burning against St. Lennox's reputation. The seminar room staff's disapproval became obvious, their actions a public embarrassment seemingly intended for the academics' entertainment. A senior usher, Richard Tate, confronted Lillian close to the oak tables. His velvet vest was immaculate, and his voice conveyed condescension. Miss, this hall is reserved for registered attendees only, he stated, ensuring the surrounding audience could hear. He indicated her jeans with a gesture, and a smirk echoed across nearby staff. The Ascension Forum doesn't usually permit such simplicity, he noted, which prompted laughter from the academics and coordinators. The audience's affirmation felt overwhelming, their perceived superiority a stark display. Lillian held her notebook, her hazel eyes steady, but the seminar room's disapproval felt heavy. The audience's anger surged, their hearts racing at this perceived institutional slight, their indignation intense against the forum's principles. The intensity of the criticism escalated. their words a sharp and bitter barrage. A Cornell researcher, dressed in a $4,000 Canali suit, leaned forward, his voice raised and critical. "She's a fraud, likely attempting to spy on Bellamy's work," he said, his colleagues agreeing with nods, their cufflinks gleaming. "Her notebook is a mere prop, a deceptive tactic to appear inconspicuous," another added, raising his voice. "She's a deceiver, and the forum has been misled." Derisive laughter echoed, each accusation a painful blow aimed at Lillian. Rumors circulated, with accusations spreading quickly. It was said she was trying to take his research. Lillian subtly twisted a rubber band, maintaining her composure, but the public's defamation felt heavy. The audience's frustration boiled over, many sympathizing with Lillian, their anger a powerful force against these false accusations, eager for the truth to expose the elite's deceit. Lillian remained silent, her eyes dry, her arms holding the notebook, the record of her life's work, a collection of formulas that had influenced Henry's career. She moved to the whiteboard, her canvas shoes quiet on the oak floor, and took the marker. The room was still, many eyes watching to see if she would hesitate. Her lines were steady, purposeful, without tremor, no deletions, and no adjustments. Within 3 minutes, the board displayed a complex solution, a level 2 supersymmetric permutation model rendered in graceful lines. She placed the marker and returned to her seat, her hazel eyes unwavering. Becca scoffed. "That's it? Are you certain you didn't make a mistake?" The audience's emotions shifted, their frustration turning to excitement, Lillian's calm resolve a focal point. An experienced professor, Dr. Arthur Wren, stood up from the front row, his tweed jacket showing signs of age but retaining its dignified appearance. At 70, a legend in combinatorics, he moved slowly toward the board, his glasses glinting, his expression changing from composed to stunned. This is the shortest known solution to this problem," he said, his voice trembling. "She employed a supersymmetric model, something the advisory board hasn't even fully proven yet." The room fell silent, crystal pictures wavering, gasps spreading through the perfumed air. Attendees rose, gathering around the board, their sapphire badges glinting. Who is she? Questions arose about her identity. What was her origin? Becca's Chanel skirt appeared to fade, her ponytail offering no defense against the reality. The audience's sense of accomplishment grew, their hearts pounding as Lillian's skill altered the seminar room's power dynamic. The atmosphere changed as the keynote session commenced, with the crowd assembling in the lecture theater. Henry Bellamy approached the stage, his gray suit well-made but not ostentatious, his arrival impactful. At 40, raised in Chicago, he had received the Fields Medal for his work on algorithmic symmetry, much of it built on Lillian's unseen contributions. He adjusted the microphone, his gray eyes meeting Lillian's in the front row. "I'd like to relinquish my speaking time to someone far more deserving," he said, his voice steady. "This is Lillian Moore Bellamy, who turned down 3 PhD offers from Harvard, MIT, and Princeton to care for her ailing mother. The individual who authored 80% of the core algorithms in my research, and the only person in this room who genuinely understands the genesis of this problem." The audience's spirits lifted, their anger shifting to admiration, as Henry's explanation clarified the deception that had restricted Lillian. The room fell silent. Becca Sloane's coffee cup slipped from her grasp, breaking on the oak floor. Henry spoke, his voice sharp in the quiet, stating, "She doesn't require formal recognition. She doesn't need awards. She possesses brilliance, a quality none of us present can assert." The attendees' cufflinks appeared to lose their luster, their expressions strained with surprise. Clara Holt remained still, her role as gatekeeper a clear admission of defeat. Henry indicated Lillian, his hand unwavering. "This forum extended an invitation to me, but it is her contributions that warrant your appreciation." The audience cheered, their fury transformed into pride as Lillian's truth began to reshape the forum's legacy. Dr. Wren nodded, his glasses glinting with respect, the room holding its breath awaiting her response. Lillian rose, her frayed cardigan a quiet crown, and took the microphone. "I didn't come to prove anything," she said, her voice soft but clear. "I came to support my husband." She paused, her hazel eyes sweeping the room, adding, but since you asked for a solution, I have offered one. The auditorium burst into applause, the attendees rising to their feet in a wave of admiration. Becca Sloan lowered her head, her Chanel skirt offering no comfort, and quietly apologized to Mrs. Moore Bellamy. Representatives from MIT, Stanford, and Caltech moved forward, their collaborative offers presented with unsteady hands. Lillian smiled, clasped Henry's hand, and remarked, "I just came to take you home for lunch." The audience responded with a powerful cheer, witnessing her poise dismantle the elite's presumptions. The consequences were swift, a judgment communicated without words. Becca Sloan was called before the advisory board, her research funding withdrawn, and her reputation served as a warning to those present. Clara Holt was moved to administrative roles, ending her career of controlling access. The Harvard professor who had ridiculed Lillian's cardigan was barred from participating in further discussions, effectively removing his impact. The Cornell researcher's grant proposals were denied, and his defamatory statements were revealed as falsehoods. Those who had previously shown scorn were addressed with consequences, and their positions lessened. Individuals who disseminated rumors concealed their credentials, their influence negated. Lillian stood next to Henry, her canvas shoes grounded, her notebook demonstrating her integrity. The audience's emotions resonated powerfully, their frustration changing to jubilation, Lillian's success shining brightly and diminishing the standing of the forum's leaders within St. Lennox's esteemed buildings. Henry Bellamy dominated the lecture theater, his voice cutting through the chandelier-lit air like a gavel. "You dared to question Lillian Moore Bellamy," he stated, his gray eyes radiating controlled fury, the architect of this forum's most significant insights. He raised a tablet displaying a list of consequences: Becca Sloan's research grants, Clara Holt's conference privileges, and academic advisory roles, all revoked by St. Lennox addressed the board. "Your names are erased from academic circles," he stated, his gaze fixed on Becca. "You've lost more than prestige, you've lost your futures." The crowd's gasps echoed as a wave of shock. With their empires collapsing under his direction, Lillian stood alongside him, her worn cardigan appearing bright, her victory assured by Henry's immense power. The elite's failure was a striking display, their overconfidence destroyed under Henry's direction. Becca Sloan retreated, her Chanel skirt seeming inappropriate, her standing a lesson to those present. Clara Holt's power crumbled, her disapproval a matter of public record, her attendance guiding her towards the atrium exit. The Columbia professor's funding disappeared, his defamation revealing his falsehoods. The professors who'd idly written with pens concealed their cufflinks, their positions as advisors terminated. The staff who'd previously expressed disdain were let go, their professional paths concluded. Those who had circulated rumors faced rejection, their power fading. Lillian remained composed, her canvas shoes a subtle sign of strength, her hazel eyes resolute. The audience's emotions surged, their anger shifting to admiration, Lillian's triumph and Henry's fury dominating the forum's esteemed chambers. A wave of applause filled the hall as his widespread condemnation diminished the arrogance of the world's leading figures. Lillian's history remained a mystery, unknown to the attendees, not Becca, and not the staff. At 20, she tackled differential equations while caring for her mother, her diner earnings paying for textbooks. At 25, she encountered Henry at a math symposium, her understated intelligence captivating him amidst a gathering of prominent figures. Their marriage, a secluded promise in a Vermont meadow, was founded on affection and mutual mathematical understanding. Becca's challenge, the staff's badges, the academic's attire, none compared to the significance of the notebook Lillian possessed. She now stood in the lecture theater, her rubber band a testament to her truth, her silence a furnace that burned through their lies. The forum resumed, but the attendees' eyes remained on Lillian. A Caltech dean approached, his voice low with respect. "Mrs. Moore Bellamy, your work is extraordinary," he said, referencing his earlier scorn or regret. The academics retreated, their influence null, their aides scrambling to salvage ties with St. Lennox. The sponsors lingered, their influence wavering in Lillian's presence. She proceeded toward the atrium, her hazel eyes following Henry's pleased smile. The chandeliers softened, the autumn light lessening, leaving a procession of the world's most powerful individuals hoping for her attention. Their gestures a quiet acknowledgement of the woman they had previously belittled. She was presented with a complex mathematical problem, not because a solution was required, but because they desired to observe her hesitate, falter, and become speechless. The seminar room was full of people in tailored suits and PhD name tags. She arrived wearing faded canvas shoes and a wrinkled shirt. However, when she held the marker and hundreds of eyes anticipated a misstep, the whiteboard revealed something unexpected. True brilliance doesn't require fanfare. It simply needs to be expressed. And the room responded with admiration. Like, share, and subscribe for more stories like this, and tell us in the comments, what would you do if you were Lillian? A wave of humiliation washed over her within her own home. What should have been a joyous occasion, her grandfather's birthday party, a place intended for warm family connection, became a setting for mockery. That's your gift? Her adoptive sister scoffed, displaying a shimmering velvet box. The maids murmured amongst themselves. Her mother averted her gaze. Her father released a weary sigh. Then her billionaire boyfriend made his entrance. Blue Manor stood prominently over New York's Hudson Valley, its limestone walls illuminated by the October dusk, and its grand ballroom resembling a cathedral of wealth. The estate resonated with an air of influence during Franklin Bloom's 85th birthday celebration. Senators were present in bespoke tuxedos, media moguls were adorned in $20,000 gowns, CEOs possessed private islands, and dynasties were represented whose names adorned museums. The Bloom family, an elite group with a logistics empire spanning continents, entertained 200 guests, with their sapphire invitations verified by velvet-gloved staff. Crystal chandeliers cast rainbows across mahogany floors, caviar gleamed on silver trays, and a string quartet wove Vivaldi's notes through the air, rich with ambition and oud. The ballroom, framed by silk drapes and portraits of Bloom ancestors, served as a stage for legacy, each guest seeking Franklin's approval, his endorsement valued at billions. Outside, the autumn wind whispered through ancient oaks, but inside, a young woman's quiet strength was poised to alter the manor's history. Harper Bloom entered through a side entrance, her linen dress, hand-stitched by a Nebraska seamstress, flowing softly, her old ballet flat silent on polished marble. At 27, she possessed a striking beauty, her hazel eyes sharp as jade, her chestnut hair loosely tied with a cotton ribbon. Growing up in a small town, she held a part-time job at a diner, pursued studies in biology, and maintained a simple lifestyle, remaining unaware of her heritage until a confidential DNA examination at age 18 confirmed she was Franklin Bloom's biological granddaughter, a consequence of a 1997 hospital mix-up. The Blooms privately welcomed her back, but refrained from a public announcement, influenced by Celia, who had been raised as their daughter in place of Harper. Celia had betrayed the family, contaminating Harper's beverages with lemon-scented soap, inserting counterfeit Gucci in her closet, taking her boyfriend, all while presenting herself as the favored child. Harper did not retaliate. She approached Franklin, the only one who addressed her as my girl, his gray eyes radiating affection. Within her grasp, a velvet pouch contained a jade bracelet, purchased with all the money she had saved, a treasured gift for him. The assembled guests' gazes pierced Harper as she entered the ballroom, their murmurs keen as thorns. Celia Bloom, looking stunning in a Dior gown valued at $12,000, was positioned at the center, her jade bracelet, costing $90,000, displayed in a custom velvet box. She noticed Harper, whose expression held a hint of derision. "Oh wow, a bracelet. Quite a coincidence," she remarked, her voice easily audible throughout the room. "I'm giving Grandpa one as well, but, well, mine is somewhat more exceptional." The audience laughed, their gazes briefly shifting to Harper's simpler dress. Margaret Voss, a media heiress wearing a Chanel gown costing $25,000, moved closer to a senator. Did she actually bring inexpensive jewelry to an event like this? She questioned, eliciting amused sounds. Harper's fingers closed more firmly around the velvet pouch, her expression calm, yet the atmosphere was charged with disapproval. Helen's eyes briefly met hers, a momentary kindness, and the onlookers' frustration grew, their emotions tightening at the upper class's harshness. Celia displayed her bracelet initially, raising it so its diamonds glittered beneath the chandeliers. "This is for you, Grandpa, from your loving granddaughter," she stated, her voice smooth. Applause filled the room, with CEOs acknowledging and socialites lifting glasses. Attention then shifted to Harper, who stood apart, holding a small velvet pouch. A hedge fund titan shouted, trying to copy Celia? "That's just sad." The room erupted in laughter, guests glancing at each other, their diamonds sparkling. A senator's wife remarked, "That's what happens when you let some farm girl feign belonging." Harper's parents, Edward and Lillian Bloom, remained still, their expressions unreadable. Lillian remarked to a guest, indicating Harper's adopted status, with a dismissive tone, "She's not used to large parties." The audience's fury rose, their hearts pounding, angered by this family's perceived betrayal. The elite's scorn intensified as Harper moved through the ballroom, their mockery a deliberate attack intended to wound her spirit. A group of Wall Street heirs in $10,000 tuxedos positioned themselves along the velvet-draped wall, their voices forming a venomous chorus. "She was a mark against Bloom's reputation," one remarked, brushing a caviar crumb towards Harper's ballet flats. "Back to the cornfields, darling," another exclaimed, displaying a gold-plated cigar case. "Her dress looks like a tablecloth." The crowd's laughter echoed, guests glancing at each other, their diamonds sparkling. A shipping magnate declared, "She's an insult to every legacy here." The criticisms felt like a guillotine, each word a sharp blow against Harper's composed stillness. Franklin's grip on his cane tightened, though no one noticed, as the audience's anger intensified, their hearts racing, feeling immense fury at this planned display of cruelty, their resentment burning, prepared to overwhelm the elite's pride. The derision escalated, a synchronized attack on Harper's appearance. A group of socialites and $15,000 gowns arranged themselves in a semicircle, their voices a poisonous blend. "Did she get that dress at a thrift store?" one whispered, throwing a silk napkin towards Harper's feet. Isolated and vulnerable, a woman endured jeers, her jeweled clutch waving. A maid, encouraged by the onlookers, openly laughed. She hadn't brought a companion, likely due to financial constraints, her voice carrying throughout the room. The laughter felt like a devastating blow, each comment intensifying Harper's quietness. Edward Bloom averted his gaze, his silence a burden heavier than any spoken criticism. Franklin's grip on his cane tightened, a detail lost amidst the throng, while the audience's anger intensified, their feelings sympathetic to Harper, fueled by this group's harsh criticism. Celia's disapproval became more pronounced, her words a deliberate attempt to humiliate Harper before the distinguished attendees. "She's not simply misplaced. She's a source of shame," she stated, her $12,000 Dior gown gleaming as she indicated Harper's linen dress. "Grandpa must be deeply embarrassed to see this outsider in his manner." A wave of laughter burst from her group, their pearls chiming, their gazes shifting to Harper's cotton ribbon. "She's a beggar, not a Bloom," Celia remarked, her voice strong enough to quiet the four. The attendees applauded, their disdain a heavy pressure, their murmurs circulating. "She doesn't belong." Harper's hazel eyes glowed with restrained intensity, yet her smile remained, a defense against the hurt. Franklin's jaw clenched, his silence growing intense, but the audience's anger surged, their hearts aching for Harper, furious at this adopted daughter's betrayal revealed in the room. Celia's supporters attacked with increased force, their scorn a public condemnation. Ethan Reed, Harper's former boyfriend, now Celia's partner, moved forward wearing a $5,000 Armani suit, his smile appearing insincere. "You still look cute, Harper." "Like a little sister," he said, his voice laced with false kindness. "Why does it seem like you consistently hurt Celia? You understand she makes a significant effort to show you affection." A collective intake of breath rippled through the audience, attendees quietly discussing, "She appears to be envious." Celia wiped away contrived tears, saying, "I simply desire for us to have a sisterly bond." The room's amusement overshadowed Harper's quietness, their remarks feeling like an overwhelming force. Harper offered a gentle smile, her hazel eyes calm, but internally she felt broken. the disloyalty a pain only Franklin's affection could ease. The audience's anger surged, a powerful wave seeking truth to dispel the manufactured falsehood. The elite's disdain became palpable, their words a sharp and bitter chorus. Vanessa Klein, a fashion mogul wearing a $20,000 Valentino gown, moved forward from a velvet chair, her voice cutting through the ballroom. "She's an insult to the Bloom legacy," she stated, indicating Harper's linen dress. "Franklin must be ashamed to see this impostor present." Her companions acknowledged this, one stating, "No wonder she's alone, her own family disowns her." A tech billionaire exclaimed, "She's a fraud, probably forged her invitation." The laughter intensified, each falsehood feeling like a painful blow aimed at Harper's heart. Harper's fingers touched her cotton ribbon, her eyes focused on Franklin, but the crowd's disapproval felt like an immense burden. The audience's outrage surged, their emotions fueled by Harper's fury at this global elite's harshness. The staff's involvement worsened the situation, their actions a new disappointment. A butler, dressed in a neat uniform, stopped close to Harper, his voice quiet but clear, saying, "Miss, the service entrance is over there," indicating the kitchen, with a slight smile that was reflected by those nearby. "We typically do not seat guests of your kind in the ballroom," he added, prompting laughter from the privileged group. The onlookers' agreement felt oppressive, their superiority a blatant humiliation. Harper straightened her cotton ribbon, her hazel eyes steady, but Franklin's jaw clenched, a storm gathering in his silence. The audience's anger intensified, their hearts racing at this blatant disrespect, their fury ablaze poised to destroy the manor's integrity. The manor staff's contempt became obvious, their actions a public humiliation arranged for the elite's entertainment. A head steward, his uniform pristine, approached Harper near the ballroom's grand staircase, his voice dripping with condescension. "Miss, this area is for invited guests only," he said, loud enough for the crowd to hear. He gestured at her ballet flats, noting her attire suggested she was in the wrong section, his smirk mirrored by nearby guests. "We don't typically allow such simplicity at Bloom events," he added, sparking laughter from the senators and moguls. The audience's affirmation felt like an overwhelming force, their pride a stark condemnation. Harper straightened her cotton ribbon, her hazel eyes steady, but Franklin's cane shook, his silence a brewing storm. The spectators' anger intensified, their hearts racing at this perceived injustice, their resentment burning against the manor's dignity. The attendees' harshness reached its height, their whispers a poisonous storm. The daughter of a media tycoon, her $30,000 tiara catching the light, leaned in and whispered, "She's a con artist," likely bribed her way into the manor. Her friends murmured in agreement, one stating her story is false, simply a scheme to take advantage of Franklin. A Wall Street banker exclaimed, "She's an imposter. The Blooms have been deceived." The laughter was loud, each rumor like a weapon against Harper's composure. Franklin's gaze sharpened, his cane shaking, yet Harper remained still, her velvet pouch a steady presence. The audience's anger intensified, their hearts with Harper, yearning for this public shaming to cease, their fury a powerful surge against the elite's falsehoods. The guests' harshness reached its height as they spread hurtful rumors, their voices a sharp and bitter storm resonating through the ballroom. A publishing heiress and a $35,000 tiara leaned forward, her voice prominent and cutting. "She's a fraud, probably manipulated her way into the Blooms," she stated, her companions nodding in agreement, their diamonds sparkling. "Her mother's likely a fabrication, simply a tale to deceive Franklin." One person exclaimed, shouting, "She's a con artist. Blue Manor has been tricked." The laughter intensified, each rumor feeling like a blow aimed at Harper's heart. Guests murmured falsehoods, their accusations spreading rapidly. "She's after the inheritance." Harper's fingers gripped the velvet pouch, her gaze fixed on Franklin, but the crowd's slander felt like an overwhelming burden. The crowd's anger was palpable, their emotions aligned with Harper, their outrage a surge against this damaging falsehood, yearning for the truth to expose the elite's deception. A change in atmosphere occurred as the gift presentation commenced, with the attendees assembling close to Franklin's carved mahogany throne. Celia advanced, her $90,000 bracelet sparkling, her expression carefully composed. "For you, Grandpa, a representation of our connection," she declared, her voice strong and distinct. The attendees applauded, their diamonds glittering, senators acknowledging the gesture. Franklin's gaze settled on Harper, his expression tender. She moved forward, her soft pouch appearing small yet significant with sincerity, and presented her jade bracelet. The onlookers exchanged knowing glances, anticipating a setback. Arthur Wren, a longtime companion of Franklin's, examined it, peering over his spectacles. His sudden intake of breath quieted the space. "Franklin, this is the most exceptional some jade I have ever encountered," he declared, his voice shaking. The audience's emotions changed, their displeasure giving way to interest, the display a point of light in a cold atmosphere. Master Li, a feng shui master present among the guests, moved forward, the sound of his silk robes soft. "This piece was blessed by Master Yuan Min in Chiang Rai," he stated, his voice calm. "A monk doesn't consecrate jade in 7 years. Only someone possessing significant karmic affinity could receive such a blessing." The room became still, flutes vibrated, and murmurs passed through the fragrant air. A tech mogul quietly commented, "It's likely a counterfeit." Arthur Wren countered, "Definitely not. This is Miss Jade, a grade so exceptional it's known only to discerning collectors in spiritual circles." Celia's smile faltered, her $90,000 bracelet appearing less vibrant. Harper remained composed, her hazel eyes serene, her gift a quiet revelation. The audience's hearts lifted, the unveiling a brilliant contrast, their pride growing for Harper's unwavering poise. The reality intensified, the crowd's murmurs becoming a wave of uncertainty. Harper was unaware that the bracelet she's purchased from a small antique store had been surreptitiously swapped by an unseen observer. Lucas Caldwell, heir to Caldwell Group, New York's largest private investment firm, had noticed her visit to his family's store. Without her knowledge, he substituted her modest jade with his grandfather's heirloom, which had been blessed by Master Yuan Min during a trip to Asia. He'd maintained this as a secret, awaiting this specific moment. The ballroom doors opened, and Lucas entered, his gray tuxedo sharply tailored, his presence commanding attention. The assembled guests turned, their expressions intense, as he proceeded directly to Harper, taking her hand, his gray eyes fixed on Franklin. "Sir, I'm Lucas, Harper's partner," he stated, his voice calm, "and today I have come to request your blessing, as I wish to marry her." A wave of emotion filled the room, their feelings intensified as Lucas's declaration altered the manor's history. A hush fell, Ethan Reed's wine glass splintering on the marble, Celia's face draining of color. Lucas pressed on, his voice sharp against the stillness. "She doesn't require designer labels. She doesn't require investment accounts. She possesses grace, and that's something no one present can purchase." The diamonds of the attendees appeared to lose their luster, their expressions rigid with surprise. Edward and Lillian Bloom remained still, their quietness implying guilt. Lucas led Harper to Franklin's side, his grip on her hand firm. The audience erupted in cheers, their anger shifting to awe as Harper's truth started to expose the falsehoods that had constrained her. Franklin's expression gentled towards Harper, his cane visibly shaking with restrained pride, as the room waited in anticipation of his statement. Lucas Caldwell's presence dominated the ballroom, his voice like a gavel silencing the fragrant atmosphere. "You dared to ridicule Harper Bloom, the sole individual deserving of this legacy," he declared, his gray eyes a tempest of contained anger. "Your resources, your positions, hold no weight against her honesty." He presented a leather folio, showing a series of broken connections. Vanessa Klein's fashion agreements, Ethan Reed's finance collaborations, Celia's charity board positions, all ended due to Caldwell Group's power. "Your reputations are removed from New York's highest circles," he stated, his eyes fixed on Celia. "You have forfeited more than prestige. You have lost your prospects." The audience's intakes of breath formed a chorus of disbelief, their organizations collapsing under his authority. Harper stood beside him, her linen dress radiant, her victory confirmed by Lucas's immense power. The audience erupted, their spirits lifted as his worldwide justice dismantled the elite's pride. Franklin rose, his cane striking the marble, the sound like a gavel falling. Enough, he declared, his voice silencing the ballroom. Harper is my only biological grandchild. Celia is the adopted one, and I regret ever allowing this deception to continue. Celia let out a scream, a harsh, desperate sound. Her Dior gown offered no protection from the reality of the situation. Edward and Lillian lowered their heads, their faces etched with shame. Franklin's gray eyes scanned the assembled guests. Celia had undermined this family regarding Harper, fabricated stories, used people to her advantage, and seized her rightful position. However, Harper had never retaliated. She had sought me out, motivated by love, not avarice. The guests reacted with audible shock, Vanessa Klein's gown seeming to droop, and Margaret Voss's tiara becoming slightly dislodged. The audience reacted strongly, their anger palpable as Franklin's announcement dismantled the elite's confidence. The consequences were swift, a judgment communicated without words. Celia retreated, her $90,000 bracelet drawing scorn from the crowd's murmurs, labeled as a thief in Dior. Edward and Lillian faced ostracism, their Bloomboard seats taken away, their social standing vanished. Ethan Reed was guided out, his Armani suit offering no protection, his financial agreements terminated. Vanessa Klein's fashion brand endured sanctions, her reputation severely damaged. The butler who had previously shown disdain was terminated, ending his career. The socialites who had participated in the disruptive behavior concealed their expressions, their power diminished. Harper remained steadfast alongside Lucas, her ballet flats grounded, her linen dress conveying a sense of understated elegance. The audience's anticipation escalated, their frustration evolving into elation, Harper's success demonstrating her poise. The downfall of the elite unfolded as a striking event, their pride broken under Lucas and Franklin's direction. Celia retreated, her Dior gown appearing inappropriate, her reputation becoming a warning for the attendees. Ethan Reed's financial empire collapsed, his disdain a visible humiliation, his companions guiding him out. Vanessa Klein's fashion brand encountered boycotts, her name a mark of social disapproval. The publishing heiress concealed her tiara, her false statements revealed as deceptions. Those who had shown disdain were let go, their careers abruptly concluded. Individuals who had discarded napkins were ostracized, their power diminished. Harper remained composed, her cotton ribbon a subtle adornment, her hazel eyes resolute. The audience's emotions surged, their resentment shifting to admiration. Harper's triumph and Lucas's fury, a spectacle that subdued the world's wealthiest within the manor's esteemed rooms. Harper's history remained a mystery, unknown to the attendees, not Celia, nor the elite. At 16, she independently studied biology, using her diner earnings to purchase textbooks. At 18, a DNA test dramatically altered her life, yet she focused on the possibility of finding family, rather than seeking financial gain. Deceptions from Celia, including tainted drinks and fabricated tales of stolen luxury goods, had caused her immense pain. However, Harper remained because of Franklin. Her affection for him served as a beacon during difficult times. Lucas observed her quietly, his own heart influenced by her strength, his inherited jade representing a pledge to safeguard her. Now, she stood in Bloom Manor, her cotton ribbon signifying her honesty, her silence a powerful force that exposed their deceptions. The celebration continued, the quartet resuming, but the guests' eyes remained fixed on Harper. A senator approached, his voice hushed with respect. "Miss Bloom, your presence is remarkable," he said, his earlier disdain now a regret. The media leaders stepped back, their sway diminished, their assistants working to preserve connections with the Blooms. The chief executives remained close, their organizations wavering under Harper's control. Harper moved towards the ballroom's terrace, her hazel eyes following Franklin's confident smile. She hesitated, her fingers lightly touching the cotton ribbon, her look unwavering as the affection she'd held. The crowd's admiration grew, their pulses quickening as Harper's subtle strength redefined the manor's history. A flurry of urgent requests filled the air, voices lowered in hushed tones. "Secure a meeting with Miss Bloom," one powerful individual exclaimed, his voice strained. "She's the inheritor now, someone murmured, her Chanel gown unable to mask the reality. The host remained nearby, his influence diminished, his prospects now dependent on Harper's decisions. Harper appeared on the terrace, accompanied by Lucas, with Franklin's arm around her. The assembled guests lowered their heads, the previous disdain now a distant memory. The autumn breeze propelled her as she exited the ballroom, leaving behind a procession of the world's wealthiest individuals vying for her attention, their bows signifying an unspoken acceptance of the woman they had previously scorned. She felt deeply humiliated, within her own home, by those adorned with borrowed diamonds and insincere smiles. However, when the truth emerged, an unstoppable force, they all realized one crucial point: the genuine heir requires no glitter. Simply entering a room is enough to command its reverence. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, and subscribe for more. We'd love to hear from you. Tell us in the comments, what would you do if you were Harper?